Hi, and welcome back to another lesson. Today I'd like to teach you how to play piano ballads in the style that I've just played or demonstrated at the beginning. I'm going to do this by walking you through, let's say, 10 tips. So we'll break it down into sort of small components you can pick up. The first tip, and the most important one, is to master the basic pattern that I've played. I've played many variations on this pattern throughout, but the most important thing is to master the basic variation. And the basic variation goes like this. I'm just going to play a single note in each hand. I'm going to play a C. And the pattern is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this might sound very uninspiring, but when you play the right notes, have a listen as to how it sounds. Sounds pretty good. And now the question becomes, what are the right notes? Well, let me teach you that next through a series of tips. The first tip in this series, so that's actually our second tip, is that you should familiarize yourself with the 4 magic chords, as I call them. In the key of C major, these are C major, A minor, F major, and G major. A chord is basically a simple chord. Is just a collection of 3 notes. C major is made out of the notes C, E, and G, which I'll also sometimes call 1, 3, and 5. A minor is made out of A, C, and E, which I'll again refer to as 1, 3, and 5 for A minor. F major is made out of F, A, and C, 1, 3, and 5. And G major is G, B, and D, 1, 3, and 5. So the 1, 3, and 5 change when the chord changes. Now what's so special about these chords is that they lead very nicely into each other, so you can string them along in different patterns and variations, and it is almost guaranteed that they'll sound good. Now a chord, as I've said, is a collection of 3 notes, and I've played them in a particular position. This is called the root position, because the lowest note that I've played for each chord corresponds to the name of the chord. So for a C major, the lowest note is a C. For an A minor, it's an A. For an F major, it's an F. And for a G major, it's a G. But in fact, for each of these chords, you can move the notes around by octaves and it will still stay the same chord, just not the root position. For example, C major, I can take this C up an octave here and get what's called the first inversion of C major, an E, G, and C. The basic idea is that I'm still playing the same set of 3 notes, a C, an E, and a G, just not in that order, so I'm still playing a C major chord. So when you think about these 4 chords, you should not think about a specific position necessarily, but rather about the notes that make them up. And remember that you can play these notes or move them up and down by octaves. As another example, look at this. This is E, A, and C. These are the notes that make up the A minor chord. So this is still an A minor chord. Alright, so we've gone over the basic chords that we'll be using to choose our notes from. And the next tip has to do with the left hand. Remember that in our pattern, the left hand plays 3 successive notes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now these 3 notes will follow one of a few preset patterns. These are either the 1-5-1, 1-5-2, or 1-5-3. What does this mean? Well, for a C major chord, the 1-5-1 is C, G, C. And the reason for this is that, as I've told you, the notes in the C major chord are called a 1, 3, and 5, C, E, and G. So a 1 is a C, a 5 is a G, and what I'm playing here is a 1-5-1, a C, G, and C. Now you don't have to remember all of these numbers and the theory, you just need to memorize these patterns. A 1-5-1 is this. A 1-5-2 is a C, G, and a D. Again, we're focusing on the C major chord. And a 1-5-3 is a C, G, and E. And you can play any of these three patterns in the left hand, and it will sound good if you're playing a C major chord. For an A minor, the 1-5-1 is an A-E-A. The 1-5-2 is an A-E-B. And the 1-5-3 is an A-E-C. For an F major, the 1-5-1 is an F, C, and F. The 1-5-2 is an F, C, G. And the 1-5-3 is an F, C, A. And finally, for the G major, the 1-5-1 is a G, D, G. The 1-5-2 is a G, D, A. And the 1-5-3 is a G, D, and B. Now let's put all of this together. We've gone over 4 initial tips, and the basic idea is that the left hand is going to play the 1-5-1 or 1-5-2 or 1-5-3 pattern for the current chord you're playing. And remember, you can have, you can play 1 bar of C, 2 bars of A minor, then 1 bar of F major, whatever order you want. And the right hand is going to play a note from the chord on the 1st and 4th beats. So here's our pattern. Let me move this up here. And let's say that we're playing a C major chord. So left hand, here's the 1-5-1. I can play 1-5-2 or a 1-5-3. This note in the right hand can be any note from the C major chord. So now let's say that I'm playing a C major, A minor, F major, G major. This is how it's going to sound. This is starting to sound good. Now let's take this to the next level, and I'm going to reveal tip number 5, which is quite magical, and this is why I've decided to call it the magic notes tip. Basically, this means the following. In the right hand, there are 4 notes, C, D, G, and B, that sound good on pretty much any of the chords that you decide to play. So you don't have to think about which chord am I at now when you're playing the right hand. You can just hit any of these 4 notes, and it's pretty much guaranteed to sound good. Let me demonstrate this by going back and playing the C, A minor, F major progression I've just played. only play these 4 notes. So if you're kind of lazy, or if you just want to something that sounds good, just remember these 4 notes and play them whenever your right hand is supposed to play a note. All right, let's go onwards to tip number 6. Up until now, your left hand has been playing 3 note patterns, either the 1-5-1, 1-5-2, or 1-5-3. The next thing I'd like you to master is a 4 note pattern. And specifically, there are 2 different 4 note patterns that I like to draw your focus to. And these are the 1-5-1-2 and the 1-5-2-3. Now, you're probably already guessing what these mean. Let's take the C major chord. Remember, this is the 1-5-1. And when I say 1-5-1-2, I basically mean that you should play 1-5-1-2. Now, if you look at your left hand, it should be obvious that something in terms of the positioning of the hand needs to change, because you don't have a finger above the thumb that can play this D over here. So what you're going to do is you're going to basically flip your finger over the thumb. And take your second finger and flip it over and play the next note. For an A minor, this would be remember, this is a 1-5-1 for the A minor, and this is a 1-5-2 for the A minor. So a 1-5-1-2 would be for the F major, and for the G major, and then the second pattern, 4 note pattern, is the 1-5-2-3. And here again, you're playing for C major, 1-5-2-3. Same idea, same sort of motion for the left hand. C major, A minor, F major. Sounds pretty beautiful. G major next. After you've mastered this 4 note pattern, the next thing would be to master a couple of patterns that make use of this 4 note pattern. So the simplest one would be to simply play a 4 note pattern instead of a 3 note pattern. If I just played single notes as before, then instead of playing, I'll be playing, see, I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I'm playing also the 4th note on the 4th beat in the left hand. Of course, when I add when I actually play the pattern that I've taught you, it will sound nicer. So I'll play the magic notes in the right hand, and I'll play a C major, A minor, F major, F major. you can go and complicate this pattern. For example, you can add a note in the right hand on the 7th beat. And when you actually play a ballad, you should switch between the different patterns. Variety keeps the listener interested. So this was tip number 7. The next tip is tip number 8, which is that you should master 6th intervals. Basically, when you look at the notes on the C major scale, what you can do is you can start out, instead of thinking about playing a C, think about playing a C and an E below it. And now take this pattern and move it up the white keys. Now this is what's called a 6th interval. Without going into the theory, the whole idea is that instead of playing just a note, like say C or B, you can play the 6th interval instead of it. So for a C it would be a C and an E, for a B it would be a B and a D, for an A it would be an A and a C, and so on and so on. And this again adds body to your playing. So for example, let's say that I am playing the magic notes. So for the magic notes, it's this for C, this for B, this for G, and this for D. And so on and so on. So some of the notes I'm playing with 6th intervals, and some I'm playing with just regular notes, and you can alternate between them. I'll leave you with 2 extra tips, sort of bonus tips, and you don't really have to master these or learn them in depth, but it's sort of nice to keep them in mind. The first is that, it's always good to add variety to your playing, and sometimes this means sort of thinking about in terms of special effects. So you might be playing this ballad, and one thing that you could do is you can just play sort of in, say, like a bridge part or a transition part, just alternating notes between the left hand and the right hand. So it's very simple. I'm just playing the bass, the one of each of the chords that I've played through, and I was just randomly playing the magic notes in my right hand. And it just sort of gives a different feel, sort of changes, it can be some sort of transition in your piece. It's kind of like almost like a special effect in your playing. And thinking about this kind of playing, what you can do is you don't have to always hit one note, you can hit more than one note. So you can take these magic notes, and you can pick any two of them. Two in succession are pretty good. So, a B and a C, or a C and a D. So it's pretty much only selecting 2 or 3 notes, combinations of them, from the magic notes, and they all sound good, really. That's why I call them the magic notes. Anyway, we've gone over 10 tips, and I hope these have given you some sort of, a lot of food for thought, and of course they'll need practice to master, and that's fine, because I'm sure you're going to all run and start practicing this. Always take it slowly, start slowly. You don't have to work at maybe one tip at a time. Work slowly with a metronome, and just remember to have fun. That's it. So I hope you've learned something interesting, and I will see you next time.